been able to visit her as I had wished. Of course, I won't deny her my fraternal assistance, but it wouldn't be appropriate to take drastic measures without a close look at the matter. We all know that, under any circumstance, obsession among discarnates or incarnates is a mental illness that often requires lengthy treatment. Who knows if poor Jovino is not in the condition of a hypnotized bird, in spite of the portliness that gives him the appearance of strength in the physical realm? From what I can tell, remarked Teonelia, I see only a man dedicated to his work, threatened by a perverse woman. Oh, no, interrupted Alice tolerantly. Don't cubbyhole her like that. Above all, we must accept her as our unfortunate sister. Yes, I agree, exclaimed Teonelia, readjusting her attitude. But at any rate, I'm begging for your charitable intercession. Anesia has been a providential co-worker, and I wouldn't be happy doing nothing to help her. We shall do all we can within our possibilities, but it is crucial for us to analyze the past in order to find the roots of this undue relationship. And giving his voice a grave tone, the assistant asked, Mightn't Jovino be returning to the recollections of his past? Mightn't this be a trial that our friend outlined for his own conscience, with redemptive purposes, and which he cannot now resist? Teonelia made a gesture of silent humility, while Alice held her shoulders. Let's be optimistic and confident. Tomorrow at nightfall, you can count on us coming to Anesia's house. We'll study the situation more closely to see what we can do. Our friend expressed her gratitude and said goodbye with a smile. Alone with us, as we returned to our temple of work and study, Alice said that this was another opportunity to continue our observations. Of course, the issue was tied to a problem of influence, and we would get the chance to examine important mediumistic phenomena in the common experiences of many people. At the agreed time, we met the next day to make the trip. We arrived at nightfall. Teonelia was waiting for us at the entrance of a comfortable yet not luxurious home. A small rose garden near the doorway spoke silently of the beautiful sentiments of its residents. Guided by our friend, we went in. The family was having dinner. A young woman was lovingly tending to a handsome older gentleman. At his side were 3 girls, the youngest of whom appeared to be 14 or 15. The previous evening's conversations didn't need any more information, but Alice explained with more detail. These are Anesia and Jovino, and their 3 daughters, Marcina, Marta, and Marcia. The family conversation was affectionate, but Jovino seemed grumpy. The children's sweet remarks didn't elicit the faintest smile. Nonetheless, the more the father showed his annoyance, the more pleasant and tender the mother became, encouraging the 2 older daughters to talk about humorous incidents at the trinket shop where they both worked. After dinner, Anesia lovingly said to the youngest, Marcia, my dear, go to Grandma's room and wait for me. She's sick and shouldn't be alone. The young girl gladly obeyed, and a few moments later, Marcina and Marta went into the next room talking to each other. Donna Anesia silently tidied up the kitchen, while her husband sat in an armchair engrossed in the evening paper. Noticing that Jovino was getting up to leave, she gave him an anxious look and asked delicately, Should we wait up for you tonight? 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 Repeated Jovino without looking at her. The lively dialogue continued. Yes, sometime later tonight we'll say our prayers together. Prayers? What for? Honestly, Jovino, I believe in the power of prayer, and I don't think we have ever needed it as much as we do right now for peace in our home. I don't agree. And with a strange smile, he continued sarcastically. I don't have time for your taboos. I have commitments to keep. I'm in the middle of examining a big business deal with some friends. Just then, a surprising image of a woman appeared before his eyes, as if projected upon him from a distance, appearing and disappearing intermittently. Jovino became more distracted, more annoyed. He looked at his wife with ironic indifference, demonstrating incomparable spiritual hardness. Intrigued by these circumstances, we heard Anesia, who was being embraced by Teonelia, saying almost pleadingly, Jovino, wouldn't you agree that we have grown apart when we need to be closer? Oh, come on. Drop the sentimentality. Your concern would have been proper 20 years ago when we were just foolish students. No, that's not it. I'm worried about our home and our daughters. As for me, I don't see any reason to torture myself. I believe our home is well provided for, and I'm not negligent about our family interests. My business is moving. I need the money, and that's why I don't have time to waste on religious pieties and pleas to a God who obviously must be quite happy living in heaven without having to trouble himself with this world. Inesia was about to respond, but her husband's attitude was so blatantly mocking that she thought it best to keep still. After straightening the knot on his bright-colored tie, Jovino slammed the door on his way out. His humiliated wife fell in tears into an old armchair and started to articulate thoughts without words. Business. Business. It's just one lie after another. Another woman. That's what it is. A heartless woman who can't see our problems. Debts, work, exhaustion. Our home mortgaged. My old mother dying. Our girls fighting early in life for their own subsistence. While her thoughts became audible to us as they radiated throughout the small room, we saw again the same image of the woman that came into sight before Jovino. She appeared and reappeared around the sad wife, as if piercing her heart with invisible arrows of anguish, because Inesia now felt inexplicably disconcerted. She couldn't see the strange and undesirable visit with her eyes, but she sensed its presence as an uncontrollable mental tribulation. Suddenly, she went from peaceable meditation to tempestuous thoughts. Yes, I remember her. She now reflected in complete desperation. I know her. She's a doll of wickedness. She's been causing trouble in our home for a long time. Jovino has changed. Little by little, he's abandoning us. He even seems to hate prayer. Ah, what a horrible creature. An enemy like that who has worked her way into our lives like a treacherous snake. If I could, I would crush her under my feet, but nowadays I have a religious faith that guards my heart against violence. However, as Inesia talked to herself in terms of revenge, the image projected from afar would come closer with more intensity, as if materializing itself in the environment to inculcate greater discomfort. The woman who dominated Jovino's spirit emerged visibly, materialized before our eyes. Both women, now avowed enemies, began their mental battle. Bitter memories, harsh words, mutual accusations. The tormented wife started to feel unpleasant physical sensations. Blood rushed to her head, imposing a painful headache. The more her rebellious and bitter thoughts expanded, the more her physical imbalance increased. Teonilia embraced her lovingly and informed Aulus. This conflict has been repeating itself every day for many weeks now. I fear for our friend's health. Aulus quickly began giving her magnetic passes of relief, and the strange manifestations began diminishing until they disappeared completely. After finishing Inesia's relative readjustment and noticing our curiosity, the assistant explained. Jovino was under an imperious telepathic domination, to which he surrendered easily. Considering that husband and wife breathe in a system of mutual influence, the effect that Jovino is suffering also involves Inesia, striking her in a lamentable manner.
We lost you, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cynthia, this is Francisco. You'll be able to continue the reading, or we can start the discussion? Or maybe Manny can keep reading.
Say again, Francisco.
Do you want the Manny keep reading?
The audio cut out, Cynthia.
Okay. I thought it was the, hold on.
No.
I thought it was the book only. Okay. Okay, let me play it. Because it's my computer. Let me see. It is my computer.
I'll read the rest if you want.
Yes, please.
Okay. Alice quickly began giving her magnetic passes of relief, and the strange manifestations began diminishing until they disappeared completely. After finishing Anasia's relative readjustment and noticing our curiosity, the assistant explained, Jovino is under an imperious telepathic domination to which he surrendered easily. Considering that husband and wife breathe in a system of mutual influence, the effect that Jovino is suffering also involves Anasia, striking her in a lamentable manner because the poor woman hasn't been able to immunize herself with the benefits of unconditional forgiveness. Intrigued, Hilario asked, is this a common phenomenon? Quite common. It's the influence that incarnate souls have on each other, which sometimes becomes a dangerous obsession. Millions of homes may be compared to trench warfare, where thoughts fight thoughts, taking on the most varied forms of anguish and repulsion. And could we include the matter in the realms of mediumship? Completely, into which we must add the phenomenon of attunement. Many types of mental alienation originate there. Quite often within the same home, family, or institution, deadly enemies from the past meet again. Called by the higher realms to reconcile, they rarely manage to overcome their mutual aversion. Passionately nourishing inside themselves the toxic rays of antipathy, which become concentrated and turn into a magnetic venom capable of provoking infirmity and death. For that to happen, the mutual persecution doesn't even have to manifest itself in visible battles. All it takes are the silent vibrations of cruelty and spite, hatred and jealousy, violence and despair, which, fed by each party, constitute destructive corrosives. After a brief pause, the assistant continued. Thought exteriorizes and projects itself, forming images and suggestions that it flings toward the objectives it wishes to reach. When benign and edifying, it conforms to the laws that rule us, creating harmony and happiness. However, when it's unbalanced and depressing, it establishes affliction and ruin. Mental chemistry is at the base of all transformations because we really do evolve in profound telepathic communion with all the incarnates or discarnates that are attuned to us. And how can we solve the problem of antipathy against us? Asked Hilario. Alice smiled and replied, the best way to put out a fire is to deny it fuel. Active fraternity is always the effective remedy for problems of this nature. That is why Christ advised us to love our enemies, to help those who persecute us, and to pray for those who slander us. They are essential attitudes for ensuring our peace and victory. Just then, Anasia checked her watch and stood up. It was 8 p.m. It was time for her prayers and with her ailing mother. We accompanied her attentively in order to pray also. Okay. Thanks for asking me to do this one, Cynthia. It seemed, I read it over a couple times. Telepathic domination sounded like I mean, it sounds what it is, strong. And I'll just start out by, I went through the chapter, and this one, the reason I said thanks is because I can see the story. The husband and wife are married. They have a devoted home. She's part of the assistance endeavors. And there's a third player in the party, which is the other woman. And it says that, it gives examples of her being devoted co-worker at the institution, and she has 3 children and an ailing mother, and it talks about her nice little house with the tender garden out front that she cares for. So you can see that they put in some work into this marriage. But it also says that the husband has strayed, which seems like the main story, right? He let himself be dominated by his thoughts, and these thoughts are of another woman who would always take over his unvigilant mind. So I think it's interesting, these things, because the assistant asked Aulis to help, and he says that obsession among discarnates or incarnates is a mental illness that often requires lengthy treatment. So that sounds pretty strong. Like this obsession, I wrote down, it seems that something more than meets the eye is going on. And so he says, what is going on? It's crucial for us to analyze the past in order to find the roots of this undue relationship. And before that, you could see that the friend was quick to categorize the woman, the outside influence, as a perverse woman, and the teacher, for lack of a better word, pulls her back and says, no, don't cubbyhole her like that. We have to accept her as our unfortunate sister. Any questions so far?
I do. Why do you think that was the answer? Why do you think that he asked, hey, don't talk like that? Why?
Well, in fact, he says that she's one of us. Like my immediate reaction would be that he believes that we're all God's children, and that it's not, once we start digging, it's not just her. They all have a part in it. I don't know. What does anybody else think?
I was thinking also that, kind of like you said, from the point of view that there are no victims, from everything that we have been studying so far, from these teachings brought in Spiritism, that there are no victims, that, we all play a part in something. And even the fact that, what's her name, Jovino's wife, didn't forgive, so this fact also that she's feeding that relationship with that woman, because the more she feeds that anger inside herself and the accusations, the more the vibrations from that woman comes towards her and towards her husband. So I think that's a very important point for us to keep in our minds, that forgiveness is something, it says in there that it's an immunization, right? She would be immunized from all of that if she would just be able to forgive. And to forgive, we need to understand that we all play a part in all of our sufferings, You know, we are not victims of anything. So if we stop feeling like a victim, then things change, our perceptions change, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I definitely saw that too. And that the point you brought up about changing that the mood or the mental state and how important it is to change your vibration. And I looked it up and it says, you know, there's a principle that says that in order to change your mental vibration, you have to have an effort of will and be in the direction of deliberately fixing the attention upon a more desirable state, which is what you mentioned, forgiveness. So that's why I thought this was really good example, because at first it seems like it's just the husband and the mistress, and in reality, um, it brings up the point that we were talking about, which was really interesting last week, which was, mightn't Jovino be returning to recollections of his past? And mightn't this be a trial that our friend outlined for his own conscience with redemptive purposes, which he can't resist? So he might have made the choice. Okay. Is the choice to be with the wife, or is the choice to be also with the mistress? Like, it leads you to believe that the mistress is the problem, but it says that he can't resist. So he can't resist being indifferent to the family situation. It says that he's closed against spiritual principles, the prayer, you know, he's turning against that. And that but at the same time, I see that she's also, this lack of forgiveness, the further we go into the thing, it's causing her physical harm, yet she still engages in it. And if I'm not wrong, it says here, I wonder if she's calling the influence toward herself by her negative vibrations toward him. The negative vibrations, do you think they push him away towards the other woman and then bring the other woman also into the picture, where she can actually feel the influence of the woman in the room?
Francisco wanna answer you.
Okay. Hi,
I don't
Francisco.
know if it's gonna be a comment. Paulo says he really, because the wife live in the same environment as the husband, each one can influence each other. Means in the family, we can bring our thoughts together or can influence each other. And this situation, he says, is happening in millions of homes. Maybe compare a trench of a warfare, thoughts fighting thoughts. That's a situation that's amazing, because she started to fight, and then the image came straight for her. Even the person was not there, but this feeling, how the sentiment was connected to her. This situation, this chapter is so very clear, right? With the situation, it's very easy to understand the problem. But when we try to think about telepathic domination on the day by day that we live in the world, that's something more complex and more sometimes difficult to perceive, to see this distinction. Can you see the situation today that we live in the here in the United States or even other countries, that everybody's connected to the problem of this disease, and then you start to be like everybody connect with one thought, or they agree to do that, or they disagree to do that, and suddenly like it's a domination, because everybody start to think about that. Okay, let's buy everybody use the mask, face mask, to protect somebody else, and there's another group say no, that's a waste of time, don't do that. And then we got this domination in your mind, and if you do not be careful, you'll be like on the situation with telepathic domination. And this is really complex and really very important to understand that.
Yeah, I constantly think about this. I think how connected we are and how we are influencing. And actually, that affects my prayers as well. And that's the reason I'm always saying, let's tune in with others with this kind of thoughts. And because this is something I am mindful about. These days, one thing happened in Russia, and everybody is in that same vibration. One let's say very famous person dies. Poor person. I mean, today everybody will think about that person and all kind of thoughts. Before it wasn't like this. One person died and that country would know, the person was famous and will appear in a newspaper. But now it's instantly. And when I hear that criminals, famous criminals, die and they commit suicide and die, billions of people, millions and millions of people sending all this amazing stream of vibrations and thoughts, I can't imagine this person receiving all this current of vibration. And I think so. I think about also people that want to be famous. I want to be very famous person. I want to have thousands and thousands of followers, but it comes with a price. It comes with a price because people will think about you, will talk about you. And for us here present, this is matter, same as matter. It comes towards us, it comes towards me. And we have an example of two people, and with her thoughts, they already encountered each other and they are battling in thoughts. Imagine in a bigger scale of events. And I constantly think about this. I constantly think about this. It's something that it concerns me, and people don't realize. They think, no, it has a cost and the price is high.
Good point. It does say the price is high. She says that the conflict had been repeating itself every day for many weeks. They're talking about this phenomenon of attunement, is I think what you're also talking about. And not just, like Francisco said, same home, same family, institutions in the bigger world, deadly enemies from the past meet again. I thought that was an interesting point. Deadly enemies from the past meet again. Okay, something new for me, but very interesting. And also that it says mutual persecution doesn't even have to manifest itself in visible battles. All it takes are silent vibrations, cruelty, spite, hatred, jealousy, violence, and despair, fed by each party, constitute destructive corrosives. This is where it can become physical, more, spread from the mental plane to the physical plane. And these two women seem to me like they're arguing, but they're not actually in the same physical space. They're having a mental battle. Like,
Juan, you talking? Go ahead.
the more her rebellious and bitter thoughts expanded, so they're letting their thoughts expand, the more her physical imbalance increased. That was all.
What's interesting, Brett, to me, what's interesting about that is that she, okay, so the husband, he brought the image of the other woman, right, into the home. So that energy is there already. And then the wife, she connected with that, so she started mentally arguing and battling with that image. And one thing that it's impressive is that that became matter on the spiritual realm. That thought became matter. So um, uh, Andrea Luis and Aulus, they could see that. But then I think, okay, that became matter as a thought that manifested. But she, the wife, she's still arguing with her thoughts. She's not arguing with the other woman. So that makes me think how often we expand, we enlarge a a conflict that we may have with somebody just by arguing with that person in our mind, and that person is somewhere else, not necessarily in the conflict. So we are creating a whole new thing um, that very often we believe it's something in common with the other person, but it's our thought creating that. So nothing to do with the other person, really.
Yeah, I want to say something about what Juan just said. And I think that you worked with conflict resolution, right, Juan? And when we see that there is a conflict, let's say between a couple, right? And it's very common that one person is the one who fights and the other one who flights, right? Or freeze. So we have our own way of dealing with it, but it's funny that the person who confronts is often accused of creating the conflict. But if we think about what you just said, that the conflict is happening in a much bigger and broader scale, even mentally, you are actually adding up to the conflict, right? If you're thinking and the energy around is creating more conflict, then it's not actually what we say or what we do, but what we think and the energy we carry on with ourselves, because it's much more complex. It's not because I've seen people who didn't say a word, but they were full of rage and anger, and you could sense from many meters, or from this person, and this person could swear that they are not contributing to the conflict, but they are, because probably in their minds they are doing what you just said. They are arguing with that person. They are sending that bad energy out, and the other person can pick it up. We all can pick it up, right? Because we are all mediums. So even what you just said made me think that even when we are in a conflict, we don't need to only take care of what we say, but about what we think as well. So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and what you just said, I was thinking of the same thing, and when Juan was talking, it made me think of something too. So the mental battle that the book is talking about, that Jovino's wife was going through. Yes, it was something that she was in part creating, but at some point, the woman that Jovino was involved with, at some point, without his wife even knowing, she came into the picture. She came into her life. So, she knew most likely that Jovino was married. She knew about their situation. I mean, I'm assuming some things at this point, but I'm going, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Maybe she knew about the wife, and she knew about the situation. So at some point, she did direct those thoughts and feelings towards the wife, even though the wife had no idea that she was even in the picture. So even though the wife is thinking about these things, and and feeling certain emotions that are negative, and in some way those are almost not necessarily warranted, but understandable, given the fact that those thoughts were out there, those thoughts were projected towards her, and now she's picking up on it, because now she's caught wind of the fact that almost psychically, that Jovino is involved with another woman, because those energies had already been revolving around her and her husband, and now she's picking up to that, she's reacting to it, and it's not necessarily wrong what she's feeling. She is embracing her Christian values, but she's feeling those for a reason, and a lot of those energies were put out there by the other woman and by her husband.
Good point, Manny. You too, Fabiana. Okay, I did see that. I did see that part that you're talking about, but also that's why I asked before. I felt like she might be calling some of this toward her, because she's already got her mind made up that there's another woman. It's one lie after another, she says, and that with her thoughts, while her thoughts became audible to us, to her, she was just running it through her mind. And she went from a peaceable meditative state to the thoughts got her tempestuous. Her thoughts became tempestuous. And the next thing you know, revenge. And now she's all the way in. She's not just hovering around this battle with the woman. She's got the vengeful thoughts coming. It says that I don't know. I thought, to me, that was that's where she goes off the deep end. It says the image projected from afar would come closer with this level of intensity. So instead of, it's one thing, she's part of the group. Is there this idea that she might bring it down a notch, be forgiving, practice what she's learning at the center, and instead she's overcome with the vibrations, and by that level of intensity, her revenge, the images projected from afar, would come closer with more intensity. So she's, starting this fire, but she's the one that's going to get burned, because it causes her her physical imbalance increases. What do you guys think about that?
Or do we think that forgiveness mean that we think a person shouldn't be punished? Punish what I mean, right? Shouldn't be responsible for what they did. Do you think that's the reason why we can sometimes jump from that meditative state of mind to the revenge? Is it because we don't truly believe that there is a justice, or we don't understand that very well yet? What do you think?
Yeah.
Does forgiveness mean you think a person shouldn't be punished for what they did?
I looked it up in the Gospel According to Spiritism, because I thought you might ask that question.
Good.
It's in there.
You know me too well.
I know. Well, that's a good thing, I guess. That it is interesting about it said that spiritists were to thank God for being put to the test, that they should also thank the hand that offers them the opportunity to demonstrate patience and resignation. It's talking about the seeking revenge and, you know, making the person the enemy, but it doesn't say that you're going to be able to forgive and love the person the way you would a close family relative. But I think it's more like what Alice said at the very beginning. We give the other person the benefit that, I mean, not forgiveness takes many forms, like recognizing that the other person's human. And I think what it was looking at before was a really interesting concept. Like, are these issues that these people have been carrying around meant to be working on? And I don't, you know, are they working on them, or is this just like a long process? But as for the forgiveness, that it says the vengeance constitutes a sure indication of the backward state of men and women, and it's talking about turning the other cheek. Whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn it to him the other also. But as far as like absolving the other woman, and I'm not sure the book goes that far. But you don't want it to be to the point where it's causing you physical suffering.
You know, what came to my mind was that we should always remember that we have had many incarnations before this incarnation, in our only one life, one existence, but many incarnations. So, and we forget. So we have the benefit of forgetting our past, but if we analyze ourselves, look inside ourselves, we can feel some of the things that we probably were capable of in the past, and tendencies that we might have. And so looking at that, we can only think that, other people that do things that we might judge, and, and maybe really criticize firmly about. If we look inside ourselves, and look at our tendencies, and accept the tendencies that we might have, or even feelings or thoughts, although we don't take actions, we might understand other people better and not judge them, and then that way we're better able to forgive them and to look down. And like looking down, not like doing what the gospel says, and being humble, to say to ourselves, "Oh, I understand that person," and like Allah said in the beginning, it's let's look at that person as a person who is doing, who is being mistaken right now, but everyone will grow. So if we look at that point, that every one of us is created to be perfect one day, to be angels, to become angels. So but right now we are here because we are imperfect. If we were not imperfect, we would not be here. So if someone is making a mistake that's bigger than we can make right now, it's because they are at that level, but we went there too. We came from there too. So we all came from different situations where we made mistakes too, big and little mistakes, but we did. And so I'm just thinking of that because I went through an experience in the past, with someone that I cared a lot about, who went through a situation of obsession, and seeing that spirit, I mean, hearing, not seeing, but hearing the spirit saying that, he was bringing revenge, and I really cared about that person. At that point, I could, thank goodness, I could not send this type of feelings towards that spirit. And that's what I think saved me and saved the person that I cared about. Because I prayed and I imagined myself hugging that spirit, with love and kindness. But if I had thought, if I had sent this type of thoughts, like, why are you doing that to him? I love him. Don't do that to him, or whatever, when maybe it would get worse, you know what I mean? So I'm so grateful that I could do that at that time. And I'm sure that I was helped to do that, because I am not really capable of doing that, I was helped by many people that prayed for me to give me strength, to help me be able to forgive. So, and I think that's what might come. I'm just thinking, because I didn't read the next chapter yet, and I haven't read this book, but I'm thinking that that's why I'm looking forward to the next chapter when he's talking about the prayer, because maybe that's what's going to give her strength to learn how to forgive. I'm just thinking that. So.
You are on mute, Brett.
Okay, thank you, Lais. Anybody else? I like here toward the end where he says the best way to put out a fire is to deny the fuel. And that it says active fraternity is always the effective remedy for problems of this nature. And it says that Christ advises to love our enemies, to help those who persecute us, and to pray for those who slander us. So they're essential attitudes for ensuring our peace and victory. But I do like that they use the magnetic vibrations to try to change the polarity of the situation. And in fact, she was able to bring it down a bit with her vengeful thinking. It says mental chemistry is at the base of all transformations, because we do evolve in profound telepathic communion with all incarnates and discarnates that are attuned to us.
I wonder what would happen if, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, go ahead. I spoke too much.
No, I did too, Cynthia, go.
I was just gonna ask a quick question. What would happen if Anesia would have had the unconditional forgiveness in that situation? What would happen? Next week? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, because next week I'm gonna sign up myself to continue. Go ahead, Lais.
No, I was just gonna ask kind of like the same question, but not specifically about Anesia. The question was more towards what Francisco had said before, towards from ourselves to the world right now, to the things that are happening around us. If our mental chemistry would be, if we would send thoughts of, trust and confidence and hope for a better future, instead of absorbing all the negativity that's around us. So kind of what you're saying, but not towards one situation or her situation, but bringing to us for our own present life.
I think
It's a
we
good
can.
point. And I think it says here, it addresses that thought exteriorizes and projects itself. So we could hope that we could create harmony and happiness by projecting good thoughts out rather than contributing to the negativity. Like you do when you sit and you meditate with everybody and the vibrations start to go out.
If I may, I think you're absolutely right about that, Brett. Because when Cynthia asked this question, I find it so hard to answer, because it's being in that situation. Put yourself in the situation of this woman that's being, humiliated and cheated on, and how can you have thoughts of how can I say, how can you be kind? How can you understand? How can you forgive a person that's doing so much damage in your life? But when you start thinking that when you, I guess what I see in my life, I used to have a friend that she's very close friend, but she was always very critical and very difficult to deal with. And I used to always think of her, and she used to annoy me. I used to have thoughts constantly of why does she have to be so negative, so critical, so judgmental, putting people down, and so negative. I started having empathy for her, and I started having loving thoughts for her, and I started thinking that she has so many good qualities. And I started after I started studying, and I started having loving thoughts towards her, and the way that she used to be with me, it completely changed, and I don't see her that way anymore. And I think I think that sometimes it can make a situation so much worse by just immersing ourselves in negativity and hateful thoughts. So it's hard to be so forgiving in a situation like that this woman is. But I think that by creating so much anger and negativity, she's just going to make her situation so much. We do that to ourselves. We just make it so much worse. So today I can kind of understand it a little bit, but it is a very tough subject, Brad. That was hard. I'm glad I didn't get that chapter. This is a mind, twister.
Thank you, Luanda. Yeah, there was a lot here.
Okay. Any considerations, Brett, before we do the prayer?
No, thanks for helping me to dig into it. It makes a lot more sense. Francisco says, active fraternity, what's the difference between passive fraternity?
Yeah.
Maybe for next week.
Yeah.
Yes, next week. Think about it.
I'm gonna make a note on this, and I will post in our group for next week. Okay, so we continue next week, same chapter. I sign up to continue with the discussion. So we are not going to play the chapter again. Please refresh your mind and listen to it again in the beautiful voice of Manny. Wonderful work he's doing. So listen to the audios. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. It's very important for Brotherhood Spirit Society, the subscription. And what one? Oh, and we post in the information of the group. Reggie was looking for us today, actually. I don't know if he's watching this because it's live on YouTube, but we have a closed face group called the Spiritual World BSS, Spiritual World BSS. I'm gonna leave in the comments, I'm gonna leave the link. So if you wanna join us there, we will post the information about the meetings. Okay, then. Tomorrow we have, I don't know who is giving the talk tomorrow. Anyone in here present giving the talk tomorrow? Maybe Raphael, maybe that's why he didn't come. Okay, I'll
think
post
it might be Scott. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I'll post it. I'll post in our group as soon as they release the information. I'll repost in our group.
Raphael's taking a class.
Oh, yes, true. That's true. That's true. Okay, so who would like to do the prayer? I can do the prayer for us. So let's close our eyes or not. It's up to you. What is more comfortable for you? Let's be aware of our breath. And let's imagine that we are breathing through our breasts, through the middle of the chest, actually, through our hearts. Let's connect our brain with our hearts. We are this universe, each one of us. We are very much connected, but we do have our individuality. Let's be aware of our individuality. Let's become aware also that we, with our individuality, we co-create with other individuals that are also living their own journey. We are responsible for our thoughts, words, emotions, and as well as how do we affect our world and the people around us. Let's be grateful that we are searching for information, searching for inspiration in order to be every day more and more aware of this. We are grateful for the good spirits for being here tonight with us and all the other spirits that came to join us in this wonderful study group where the energy of respect and friendship is above all. And may we come together here very soon, wishing a great week and weekend for all of us, healthy, constructive, and with more studies, more readings, more lessons for us. Let's embrace all the opportunities. Thank you, and so be it. Thank you for a wonderful journey.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
very good.
Brett. That was nice. Really
It was
nice.
wonderful as usual.
Yes, many questions and deep reflections. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brad, for your wonderful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.
All
See
right,
you
guys.
next
Night,
week.
guys.
Have a good night.